Redditors who regularly travel around the world in ships or boats, what is something strange or haunting that you have witnessed while out at sea and still cannot explain? Growing up, my family had a cottage on a small island in the Baltic Sea off the coast of Sweden. This happened in the late 1970s, during the Cold War when Russian subs were often observed in Swedish territorial waters. Our island did have a military installation on it and was off limits to foreigners. My dad and I were fishing from Grandpa's old wooden rowboat, just drifting along a couple of 100 yards offshore when all of a sudden the head of a diver slowly rose to the surface a couple of yards off the side of the boat. He slowly turned around, spotted us, and disappeared beneath the water again. We saw divers on several occasions, but never that close, and once we also saw the coning tower of a submarine. 2 civilians spotted me. Mission failed. On deployment, observed a fireball in the Indian Ocean. 100% convinced it was a large meteor, but it remained solid until it disappeared and it abruptly angled like it hit something, albeit at a very shallow angle. When I say fireball, I mean fireball, not a shooting star like you can see on a typical dark night, not in the city. I saw one in 2003 at school while being one of the reserves for a volleyball game in grade 3 sport. Was at the east coast of Australia, and it was like how you described it. No one believed me, and I got called Down Satellite Boy by the other kids for the rest of that season. As a child, even stupid names hurt. I was in a 40-some foot boat in my teens. I know next to nothing about ships, but I commuted by boat almost every day, so I've been on them a fair amount. This was in Lake Superior, where I never knew the waves to be very big, and they would usually cancel the ride if that were the case. One day we had a single massive wave come out of nowhere and nearly flip us over. It was taller than our boat and drenched everyone. But I had been looking in the direction where it hit, and there was nothing. Just a momentary 15-foot wall of water which hit us, and the lake was calm again. Lake Superior is nothing to mess with. None of the Great Lakes are. Erie is one of the most dangerous, treacherous bodies of water on Earth. When I was in the Navy, I was stationed on a cruiser, and that ship was certainly haunted. More than once, I shared a smoke late at night with someone vaguely familiar, but no one knew who I was talking about, and the description didn't match anyone. We never really talked other than mention the quality of the seas at the time. It's a nice night, or looks like a storm is coming, and then just watch the horizon or the night sky, a couple of times commenting on the constellations that were out. Never anything malevolent, but a little unnerving when I could never find that dude and people thought I was too sleep deprived. By shared a smoke, do you just mean smoking by each other and not like bumming or giving him a cigarette? Oh no, every time he was out I was bumming to him and lighting his cigarettes. This is one of the reasons it was really weird. Was a watchman on a dinner cruise vessel, watched as dolphins encircled a school of bait fish, drawing the circle tighter and tighter until they plowed straight through the ball and nailed the fish. Did not understand how sophisticated and murderous dolphins were, or how well they planned their attack. Everyone forgets that humanity is just most successful in a long line of nature's vicious creatures. If anything, we were one of the nicest, most merciful apex predators to ever exist. I spent a week on a boat on a river. One day I was kind of zoned out on the deck when something in the corner of my eye caught my attention. I turned around just in time and saw a whale's tail going back into the water, like the cliche pictures you see of a tail sticking out from the surface. I was sure I saw it, like 100%. But then I thought about the probability of a whale navigating its way up a river through 3 locks just to do some flips and stuff, and chalked it up to my brain making it up somehow. It still confuses me. Sharks have made it all the way into Lake Michigan and even into adjacent rivers via the St. Lawrence Seaway. It could happen. I was in the middle of the ocean on a sailboat several years ago. It was the middle of the night and I couldn't sleep, so I decided to sit up for a little while. After a couple of minutes staring idly at the ocean, I see something a couple 100 feet away. It's drifting closer and closer. When it's finally close enough for me to see what it is, I see it is a life preserver with a tennis shoe stuck to it. I know there was probably an explanation, but it still creeped me out to see in the middle of the ocean. On a patrol once in Delaware, we came across a deflated kid's life ring type toy float about 3 feet below the surface. The river is turbid and you couldn't see any further. We grab a boat hook and pull the float closer, and there's a long line going out of sight with a bit of weight to it. We stopped and talked a second to brace ourselves for what might be attached to this line. We pulled and it ended up being a bunch of twigs fouled around the line, but if we weren't expecting to see a dead kid attached to it. Something similar had happened to one of the other crew before, so he was pretty freaked out by the whole thing and just started laughing when it was just a log. My dad caught this huge arthropod during our time out at sea when we went to go and catch crabs close to a Florida coast. It broke free from the net and swam away. No clue what it was. That or it interrupted a horseshoe crab party. Rude. They were just trying to have their party and you took Carl away from them. He was the life of the party. We would sometimes see lights out in the distance at night. I had a few people tell me that some of these lights were so bright that it felt like it was like the sun had come up. I haven't seen a light like that, but I have seen one that looked like a plane flying at night. It would change directions and fly the other way. This happened 5 times in a span of about 2 minutes. This is something I cannot explain logically. How can something change directions that fast, at that speed, in that kind of movement? Oddest thing I have ever seen. I read a few stories on AskReddit of people looking at these weird moving lights that would change direction abruptly, and usually those people claim they watched the lights for 5 to 10 minutes, but in reality it had been like 3 hours. They also claim that there was no such way a long time has passed. Did you experience something similar when watching those lights? It was about 5 to 10 minutes. I knew the time because we were setting up for an event. Whatever it was, traveled across the sky back and forth with alarming speed. It was extremely fast. This also happened around the same time my friends saw the sun-like light from the bow of our ship. We saw 2 different things at the same time. Has a natural explanation, but it was a strange phenomenon. Was on a cruise in the Mediterranean in 2014. One evening while out on the ocean, we saw some strange lights coming from what appeared to be a close-by island or shore. At first I thought it was an army exercise, as the lights could be cannon fire. As we were sailing closer, it was actually a very low lightning cloud, stuck in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. Made for a spectacular show, and I have never seen anything like that again. Almost as if the lightning was trapped in there. I used to watch clouds like this off the southwest coast of Occidental Mindoro, an island in the Philippines. Depending on the time of year, you could see them every night. Weird because there was never any thunder with it. It was kind of like being surrounded by a mute thunderstorm, but without any rain or wind either. I lived on Subic Bay, Philippines in the 70s and saw colorful, silent, high-altitude lightning that ripped across the sky. I don't regularly travel, but I swear to God that during a school field trip to Lake Michigan, we went out on this boat and I turned around to look back at the city and I just see the shadow of a kid falling off of the edge and no one noticed or cared. I pointed it out, but my teacher disregarded it. Either I was hallucinating or something happened because after that I heard nothing about it. I haven't spent too much time on the water, just some minor fishing trips with my dad and some of his friends when I was young. The only strange thing that ever happened was on Lake Texoma, Texas, Arkansas, with my dad and a friend of his. We were fishing and didn't catch anything, so we went to another part of the lake to swim. We ended up seeing this huge shadow under the water about 6 feet long perhaps. My dad noticed it first and caught me before I jumped off the boat into the water right next to it. Ever since then, I've been scared of the water. Not so bad I can't swim, just that it makes my skin crawl to think of what might be under me. Do they have lake sturgeon in Texas? They get over 6 feet long and weigh close to 200 pounds. Not sure about sturgeon, but Texoma def has alligator gar that can get pretty large. 6 feet might be a stretch, but I think a record holder was caught down there close to that size. I have a feeling that anyone coming across a rogue wave would find that really haunting, especially if they survive, depending on the size of it. Those things are why I will never sail out of sight of land, and that's because if I see a rogue wave rising up in front of me, it's not a rogue wave, but a tsunami. And we're all in trouble, so at least I know I wouldn't be the only one to die. Misery does love company, after all. On the other hand, tsunamis are much more survivable in open ocean, i.e. deep water, since it's the shallowing of the ocean floor combined with things for the water to push you into that makes them so dangerous. True, except here in the UK, even our seas are shallow. Although that said, I'm actually curious to know if a tsunami ever did hit the UK, if it would be triggered by Iceland going boom, or if it would be from the Atlantic. Come to think of it, I wonder if any subs have ever been caught in a tsunami or rogue wave and how rough the seas are below the surface. Just got off a cruise, and one night we saw what looked like a ship in the distance, but all the lights were red. It would disappear and reappear minutes later. This happened for like 2 minutes, and then we never saw it again. You may have been near an offshore wind farm. Windmills generally have flashing red lights, and they all flash at once sometimes, which is pretty freaky. Offshore wind farm? I'm gonna personally stick with the ghost ship hypothesis. Not sure what it was. I was working on a ship off the coast of Florida one night when I went out for a smoke and saw what I thought was a meteor shower. But a few of the objects went from moving slow in one direction, then did a U-turn and shot off in the opposite direction. Still not sure what I saw. If the meteors were hitting our atmosphere, they can bounce off and go in another direction. I saw a shooting star do a Nike swoosh pattern once. I read that sometimes they skip off the atmosphere and turn directions. Saw the front half of a large great white shark. It was missing the back half of its body, cut completely in half. Maybe a ship's prop? Maybe a much bigger shark. I don't know, but it was a weird sight. I think I saw a show on Shark Week that said that orcas will eat a shark's liver for the nutrients and not eat any other part of it. Maybe that was what happened. I saw that as well, but this guy was sliced very cleanly, like one swipe. Literally half the shark was gone. At 4 years old, I was brought along with my stepdad and mom to travel the coast of Norway with his shipping company. The ship was probably 70 meters or something. I was too small to take precise measurements. Anyway, we encountered a rogue wave, and I will never forget the sight of seeing the bow clip a massive wave to see it take a deep plunge downwards. The bridge was located at the stern, so I saw it. Then I felt my body levitate for a split second. Still think about this moment 14 years later.